surely everyone understands that, from the moment we are born until our last breath, we often enjoy many times of joy in life. The joy just passed, then the sadness came again. Birth, old age, pain, death, are the four great calamities. No one can avoid it, but the poverty, oppression, hatred of meetings, separation of love, and pull of circumstances are enough to make sentient beings suffer. Extremely miserable. Tears filled the entire world, but would still rise forever if the greed and lust of each individual and group were not suppressed. Evil, cruel, selfish behavior that harms others cannot be equalized and destroyed due to the great compassion that thinks of oneself, of those who follow justice and righteousness. We just look at today's scene and clearly see that it is a sea of painful tears caused by the madness of humankind. Therefore, we firmly believe that for all suffering, there is only one way out: people who know how to look at each other with compassionate eyes, or in other words, people who know how to follow the righteous path and become enlightened. In the past, there were no saints or enlightened people like Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who did not go through that path. Until teaching people, teaching life also focuses on that. So no matter who is in society, they need to take cultivation as the basis. Otherwise, they themselves are spoiled and they have harmed themselves. Who can they hope to help? Life is still like that. Let alone Buddhism, a religion that focuses on the purpose of self-realization, enlightenment of others, self-benefit and benefit of others most of all, but how can it not care about cultivation? The Buddha taught in the Shurangama Sutra that, as long as past kalpas have passed, the memories of the Tathagata are kept in secret and marvelously strict, but not like one day cultivating outflows of karma. The general idea is that even though you have studied extensively for many lifetimes, heard a lot, and remembered all the Dharma methods taught by the Buddhas, it is not as good as one day dedicated to cultivating anusrava in the world. That is the Buddha's warning to Venerable Ananda, but it is also a warning to us about the harm of not cultivating. If we only study but do not practice, we are like someone who memorizes a map and then sits in one place, getting nowhere. Then knowing how to practice is an essential thing. But currently, many of us Buddhists, as well as a large number of people outside, still hold false doubts. Some people think that practicing is too difficult, having to leave family and society to force oneself within a narrow framework, closing one's eyes and ears to every situation. Abandoning many desires for pleasure and practicing spiritually. Deluded, thinking about something far away and magical every day, relying on divine power to pray for a future of eternal life, immortality, or eternal happiness. What benefit does such practice benefit anyone? If you practice like that and become a saint, a god, and enjoy blessings, then this practice is only suitable for people who lack energy, old men and women. The second type of people, on the contrary, think that practicing is a very good thing, the foundation for a pure human heart, for peaceful, lasting peace. Only when peace has spread and people can live will they have time to think about cultivation, but when soldiers are in chaos and famine is rampant. It is time to try to put down rebellions and calm the people, work hard to restore prosperity, and wait until the mind is stable before worrying about practice. There are still many doubts about practice, but in short, they are no more than the two things mentioned above. Because of thinking like that, nowadays when people hear the word practice, they immediately imagine a weak appearance, a strange, backward, and untimely thing to do. Looking carefully at those two ways of thinking, many of them are not correct. But not much wrong for people who are called practitioners, but in fact they apply many unjustified things. If we now want to correct the above shortcomings to bring about many practical benefits so as not to betray our faith in Buddhism, then we should also clearly understand the word practice in Buddhism first to avoid the disaster. Be arrogant when you don't practice at all, so as not to be intimidated by shallow sarcasm, which can hinder our legitimate path of practice. Of course, here we only understand the word practice in Buddhism, but besides the Buddhist practice, there are many other ways of practice in this society. Unfortunately, the scope of this article does not allow us to discuss it. We can only say roughly that these practices do not completely eliminate the source of suffering, so they are not a method to bring people to liberation and peace. Genuine joy. It is true that the mind is the Buddha, but as long as we are still living beings, it is certain that our mind is still deluded, has selfish delusions, is lazy, and is not like the Buddha's mind, clear, honest, and generous. Merciful. In terms of differences in appearances, we and the Buddha are both confused and enlightened. Suffering and joy are as different as heaven and abyss. We cannot just talk about it and hope to be liberated. On the contrary, we need to honestly try to examine ourselves and experience it. Examine yourself to clearly see what is evil, what is wicked, what is cruel, what is deluded, and gradually change and practice until complete perfection. During that practice, as many wrong things are corrected, that is, as many causes of suffering are eliminated, the suffering will gradually separate and happiness will gradually be discovered. When it is completely pure, it is enough to witness the four virtues, permanence, pleasure, self, purity, not be affected by anything. That's why the sutra has the saying, without the ability to transform things. One is the same as the Tathagata. A Tathagata or Buddha is one who has transformed all things, inside is not obscured by polluted nature, and outside is not influenced by the seductive circumstances of form, sound, fame and profit. Take control of yourself, take control of your situation. If we want to be happy now, we must have self-control. If we want to be self-controlled, we need to rely on Buddhism to correct our behavior, temperament, and narrow, erroneous notions that have been firmly rooted in us for many, many lifetimes. Modify behavior, that is, correct the evil of actions and words. The body often kills, steals, and commits adultery, the mouth often lies, denigrates, flatters, etc. These are harmful acts that few people avoid. If they are built up and spread over and over, then human beings will be pushed to the point of destruction even faster. Think of it as the karma of killing. In the past few years there has been no place where the karma of killing has not caused terrible disasters, making life, the most important thing of all things, no longer have any guarantee. Has there ever been a time like today, when all mankind has only lived in anxiety and fear, when they felt that their lives were lighter than the dust on the side of the road? Not for a moment could they feel at peace with the cruel hands of murderous karma, eagerly waiting to threaten. Not to mention accidents, acts of theft, lying, etc. are equally terrible. If everyone deeply realizes that the evil acts mentioned above are the direct cause of suffering between others and ourselves, because if we sow the cause of killing, one way or another we must reap the results of being killed. Harmful, to change, practice and gradually eliminate them. Only then can we live safely in harmony and intimacy. If you change your behavior, you must also change your character, because it is the bad character that is more harmful. Greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, doubt, are the old evil dispositions of sentient beings. We know that if we have a body, who wouldn't want to survive, but many people, filled with endless greed, want to collect all the good things for themselves, just wanting their lives to be glorious, happy, and full of joy. Enough, more precious than everyone else, so no matter what is despicable or cruel, whenever it brings benefits to you, you will never refuse it, no matter who is in need, suffering, or crying, you will never care. Think, even considering money and fame as more than hundreds, thousands, millions of lives of fellow human beings, just because of greed for fame and fortune, human life is ruined. Thinking about greed is invisible but not harmful. At least, if there is a greedy person in the family, glutton for example, the family's life will lose harmony. Indiana, the midst of society, wherever greed flourishes strongly, there is no way to avoid scenes of conflict and tragedy. Because of being greedy, of course there is anger, and of being angry, of course there is fighting and tearing. Alas! One greedy nature has made everyone's heart burn, not to mention how many other evil natures there are. Finally, if you want to easily change your bad character to the root, you must at the same time correct your narrow-minded and selfish notions. All things are born and transformed on a common, harmonious essence. Nothing exists outside that common essence. We ourselves must rely on all related support to come out. Yet sentient beings are confused, differentiate themselves, imagine and cling to only one, build boundaries between themselves and everyone and everything, always put I first, on top, take I as the standard for every action, speech and thought. That's why we are often narrow-minded, wrong, and miserable. Broadly speaking, there is no honor or dishonor, no right or wrong, nothing is absolute. One person's honor is another person's humiliation. That person's honor is this person's humiliation. There are many things in life that make us see clearly. The school of life is a narrow place of struggle in the criticism and construction of the narrow and false I. So we need to expand our wisdom widely, break down misconceptions, cling to ego, and see that life is very spacious and tolerant towards all species and things. As just mentioned above, it is about correcting cruel behavior, correcting bad character, correcting the notion of having a narrow I. It is about preventing bad things, eliminating bad things, not let it sprout and branch out. Practicing like this can be considered a negative practice rather than promoting the good. Expanding the good, making the good more and more spacious. Currently in us, there are not only many evil and polluted things, but also many good things that need to be nurtured and cultivated, such as almsgiving, patience, tolerance, wisdom, equality. Considering that no one does not have it, if we know how to try to cultivate it, there is nothing beneficial that we cannot do. To summarize the above two aspects of practice, one is concerned with eliminating the nature of harming others and harming oneself, the other is concerned with the nature of benefiting oneself and others. Having realized that greed is harmful, worrying about eliminating greed is cultivating, eliminating anger is cultivating. Eliminating arrogance and selfishness is cultivating. On the contrary, realizing that giving alms is good, being diligent in giving alms is cultivating, being compassionate and saving things is cultivating, being tolerant and generous is cultivating. Regardless of whether the action is good or has many benefits for others, if you try to forget yourself to practice it, it is also called practice. Practicing like that is not narrow-minded or weak, practicing like that is not the private matter of any group of people, or of any era. Just because many people do not understand that the word practice has a wide scope. Therefore, we should think that practicing is the specialty of monks, bored people, recluses, or disciples of this or that religion, and is not relevant to the vast majority of people who are still practicing. Struggling, living with a life no further from reality. Oh, I didn't know that misconception is no different from the perception of people who think hygiene is the scope of expertise of doctors, or of people who have contracted infectious diseases. It is true that the treatment of the body has many nooks and crannies and difficulties that the physician must work hard to find, and must provide himself with a cleaner and more hygienic environment, but in the category of people who are not physicians, there is no need to. If you know hygiene and are free to be dirty, it will not only harm you, but will also spread to everyone around you, forcing them to live together in a dangerous situation. If the aspect of treating the body is like that, then the aspect of improving the spirit is no less. Wanting to destroy all the remaining bad thoughts, and develop all the good thoughts to be more generous, is even more difficult, if one is not determined with that goal, if one does not have a good situation. Convenient for practice, it is difficult to expect complete results. Therefore, in Buddhism, monks must become monks to reduce external distractions, must stay in a place of solitude, to clearly see the deep roots of sin, and wash it away. But if we further understand that it is not only those people who can practice, they need to practice, but all types of people, in any position in times of chaos as well as times of peace, can practice, all need to practice. Should practice all. If you don't practice, you are free to let greed, exploitation, and selfishness that harms others to take control, causing disasters without boundaries or boundaries. So should we consider practicing as something outside our duty? Can we not clearly understand the meaning of the word too? You should recognize it clearly, see it as a motto of an honest life without giving it to anyone, just try to practice it yourself and advise others to know and practice, to build together a peaceful and sustainable life, creating the scene of ultimate bliss in this Saha world. If so, it means you have understood and practiced the true meaning of the word practice in Buddhism.
Thank you for spending your valuable time on my channel journey to enlightenment. Wishing you a very peaceful and happy day. Don't forget to click like and subscribe to my support channel. See you in the next video.